CEO of Pina, and I'd like to welcome our very special guest today, Irina Karagyaur. She's the head of Metaverse Growth at the Unique Network. And just to clarify, this is the NFT chain for Kusama and Polkadot. She is also a highly acclaimed NFT advisor and keynote speaker with an incredible origin story and professional journey, which I'd like to get into the weeds a little bit today. But what I would like to know is, how did you originally get into blockchain? Knowing that you were also a professional architect years before and an urban planner. And I know this, anybody who's gotten into cryptocurrency, there's always some unique journey or story associated with that. So I was wondering if we could touch upon a little bit of that.
Well, firstly, thank you, Adam and Christopher, for having me here today. Very excited to share my journey and hopefully inspire people who are still kind of doubtful about the crypto space. I graduated as an architect in Russia, then moved to Italy to do a master's degree in urban planning and worked in architectural firms for the government on urban planning projects. And then I moved to management consulting to work on international level, but again, like in infrastructure and architecture. But I've always been passionate about technology. So even back in my master program, I wrote a thesis about Erlang data being a promising tool to uncover urban dynamics. And Erlang data is an aggregated mobile phone data that allows you to track human movement anonymously and understand how our cities work and where people gather, and how that can help improve us transport system, make it more efficient, and make charges that make more sense and stop wasting funds on like useless movement on the trains. And interestingly enough, we learned about urban sprawl in urban planning, which is purely decentralization and purely like the patterns by which people move outside of cities and spread around. And all that is driven by the new economy, essentially, by the economy where we have a laptop, an internet connection, and we can work remotely. And a lot of people began moving towards this creative economy and work remotely. So this topic of decentralization and using internet and building economy in the internet, new creative economy in the internet, always interested me. But factually, there were not so many opportunities in the actual like space to start building it, because it was like a big, nice theory, but factual jobs, you know, well, in consulting, partially it is like that. You're kind of with your laptop and you visit your clients, et cetera, et cetera.
Sure.
So I always had this idea that I want to do something big for the world, something important, something meaningful, and be part of this new economic movement. In 2016, I moved to London from Milan, and I discovered PropTech. And PropTech is, again, like technology with blockchain, so it made huge promises about the use of technology in the construction industry and so on and so forth. Actually, by that time, Bitcoin became something kind of began entering the mainstream. So a lot of people, a lot of my friends began talking about it, especially those who live in Russia, because the adoption of innovation there happens like quicker than in Europe. But it was still a space that was really difficult to enter. Like, you couldn't just buy Bitcoin with an app. You couldn't just enter that space and learn more. There was not enough information. You had to have a friend who's a developer who could explain you how to buy cryptocurrencies, what are they about, how the whole thing works. So like, I got general knowledge about the space from a book, The Blockchain Revolution. Okay. And like, it just got like stuck somewhere in the back of my mind that I want to do something about it, that it's interesting, it's promising. But it really did look more like a space for legal people who understand like smart contracts and legal part of the system. And then all of a sudden, in March 2020, when London went into lockdown and we faced the global pandemic, and we were all forced to, you know, stay in our homes, and like the traditional job sector collapsed and everything collapsed. I got in touch with my old consulting company, who was trying to find ways how to help other businesses to go digital. And through like this exploration, I discovered that there are many projects of tokenization, and tokenization particularly of real estate. And that captured my attention, because being taken into account all my background in architecture and urban planning, and then interest in technology and Bitcoin, I thought, well, this is it. This is interesting, you know, how you can make this industry that's super difficult to access more accessible to everybody. And then I began learning more, connecting with other professionals in the space. And I discovered that there are many projects that tackle different problems in real estate. So like Internet of Things, factual tokenization, or supply chain or infrastructure. I came across one project that basically brought me in Polkadot ecosystem, which was Robonomics. And then I learned that there is Kusama.
Right.
Opened the website and it said, expect chaos. You know, that's like a really catchy line. And I was, wow, that's interesting. And then they had an ambassador program application. And I said to myself, you know, I want to learn. I want to jump in. So I just pressed the application button. And then a couple of weeks later, I got on a call with the community manager, who welcomed us and said, this is a historical moment in Polkadot community, because we're launching, there was a redomination day of DOT, and a lot of interesting things were ahead, which I didn't have any idea about. But then it was really a historical moment also because it happened to be a DeFi summer, especially in London. So this is how I found myself kind of in the ecosystem on Discord channel that I never heard about before, that exists, all this developer space. And then I also joined, found the International Foundation for Blockchain and Real Estate Expertise as a chair for London. That is the international organization that looks at different aspects of tokenization and real estate. And it's another fantastic pool of professionals from across the globe who share their expertise. And we actually ran the first in history event DeFi in real estate in March 2021. So I began really just actively learning, connecting with people, understanding who is doing what are the projects in the ecosystem. And actually back in like September 2020, I came across Unique Network. I came across Alexander Mitrovic, who is the CEO of Unique Network. And he told me, I'm building the infrastructure for NFTs. And that really was, you know, the key thing. So I went full in to read everything I could about NFTs. I began following the team. They won Hakusama Hackathon. They created the first Substrapan collection for Polkadot. It was distributed among community after the hackathon. And I just began my journey as an ambassador and kind of talking to other people, running community events, understanding what we can do that can benefit the ecosystem, how we can drive attention, what are the developments, and what is needed to be done. And NFTs really happens to be probably the most creative and the most flexible and the most powerful tool in the blockchain space. And then if you consider how powerful is the combination of DeFi and NFTs, like the assets in the form of non-fungible unique assets, where you can create different bundles and you can tokenize different things, and then you can put it in the liquidity pool in DeFi space, and what you can do about it. Because I really think that tokenization of everything, tokenization of all different digital assets will happen through NFTs, because there is no better token engineering, token structure that can really provide us the necessary tool, the necessary combination of things that we can create bundles, for example, in the future. Now it's not really possible in the current Ethereum environment, but in Substrate framework, it will be possible to attach like an image and a music file and a coin to it and transfer this bundle across the globe, peer-to-peer.
Sure, absolutely. And I remember we touched upon something during our screening call. So during the lockdowns, both in Europe and the United States, very, very difficult time for everybody, individual and small business alike. So I remember you mentioned something. During the lockdown, you went through a period of self-learning and self-discovery. And I would like to expand a little bit on that. I feel I got a great sense of knowing what drives you. And I think you got to explain to me the promise that you saw in blockchain. And I think this lockdown, for people who really, I think, reflected, this may have been a time for self-transformation for a lot of people. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Well, really and truly, the biggest learning thing that really pushed me, I found a course about blockchain revolution opportunities for business, because being non-technical person, I needed to understand how blockchain can practically benefit businesses. How can you take blockchain to the real world? You know, because you're a developer, that is clear. You get clear incentives in the form of token because you either run the network as a miner, as a validator, as a collator, or you write a code. So it's very clear how developers can make money with the blockchain, and how they can use it because they're actually building it, right? So that's pretty simple, like a builder building a building. But there was not a clear path for business. So I discovered two courses, really good courses, one from INSEAD, supported by INSEAD University. And that really opened my eyes, because it was so well designed and it explained so well the practicality of the space. And then I found a blockchain developer who actually turned to be an influencer. And he created his course for, let's say, it's a bit of a hybrid and combination between development and business orientation. And actually, after doing this too, I went to do a C++ course for blockchain developers. Because once you find, the true thing is that once you find something that motivates you, something that really makes sense to you, you just can't stop. And that's what I discovered with myself, because blockchain space is really the space for entrepreneurs, for leaders, for people who want to drive change, people who like innovation, people who like learning, because it's supremely dynamic. You have to learn every single day, and learn not just about blockchain, because in the NFT space, I now have to learn a lot about art. Because recently we had a chat in Twitter space with NFT artists. And the conversation was, but what is art? There's so much hype around collectibles right now, and there are so many possibilities into art. Can you consider what is currently being minted as NFT a real art? How can you discover the value of that art? How can you use what institutions have been developing for hundreds of years? A lot of people are criticizing Sotheby's and Christie's for jumping into the space and for artists following them, because they say, well, but you're not changing anything, you're not breaking the old system, you're actually following into the brand, etc. But then it happens that not really, because then Sotheby's and Christie's discover the artist himself. They don't discover 10 people that are in the middle between the artist, like his director or manager, or everybody who kind of is in the middle between the artist and the gallery.
Gallery, yes.
And then these big institutions, they have centuries of studies on on evaluating how much art can cost and how to discover price. And what happens with artists, they are not aware about financial side of the business. They have no idea. If you ask any artist who has the opportunity now to put his artwork out there, price it any way he wants, and just be his own business, they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to market it. They don't know how to price it. They don't know the value of their own work. So they will actually have to learn all the complexities that we are eliminating with the middleman. And now the challenge is to understand, but who is that evil middleman that everybody is talking about? Or maybe we just have to rethink the system and have to rethink the values and have to give a different meaning to the art. And maybe art will completely transform in something else.
Right, and I wanted to ask you, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I wanted to ask you, so especially with NFT art, there are historical metrics to value in great art, as far as how do you effectively price this painting in this market during this time based on the profile, or you could say the prestige of this artist. So now that we have NFT art, what dangers do you see with NFT art? And on the flip side, what promise and benefits do you eventually see with NFT art?
The danger already kind of showed itself, because when people were allowed to mint whatever JPEG they could mint, they did so. And that actually had a lot of impact on the environment, because they were minting on blockchain that was very highly energy consuming.
Right.
And then I heard the story of an artist who actually spent 2 years calculating every single kilowatt of electricity he spent in his studio to become more sustainable. And then in one day he minted the NFT, and that NFT erased all his efforts for 2 years, because he simply did not know on what technology he is minting. So the danger is in not knowing what the technology is and what you're exactly doing. Not knowing that your files to date, when you mint NFT, you actually get a hashtag on the blockchain, because blockchain space is very precious and expensive. So all your files are stored in IPFS. And there is still a way to be discovered, like how do you preserve the actual digital painting or digital music file. So these are all things, work in progress. So there is no kind of rush into minting everything, but obviously people discovered that there is an opportunity to make money overnight, which is again not true, because with the current gas fee system, you had to pay at times up to $200 for a transaction. And if you were trying to mint something that cost you $100, it didn't make any sense, because then you will actually indebt yourself instead of making a profit.
Right.
So these are all the things kind of being more patient as an artist and focusing on the art as such, on focusing on creating something really valuable from the aesthetic and artistic point of view, rather than a file that can be sold for millions overnight. Because even those digital artists who became famous during the NFT boom, they were working for years. Right. Because there is no such thing as overnight success. They were digital artists for years, and what happened was that digital art was depreciated because it could be copied, it was just freely distributed on Instagram, Twitter, other social media, and people kind of never saw the real value of it. Even though you nowadays sometimes interact more with digital art than with physical art, because we use internet browsers all the time, social media all the time, and we see these images and graphics all the time.
Right.
And another question is about what you just said, like how do you value it? Is it real one? Because I read that Beeple would never make it to 69 million, and his art would not be really valuable if it was just a poster, let's say, or just a painting.
Right.
The real value he got, the real 69 million he minted it for, is just because it was NFT. It was the first ever NFT.
Interesting. Now I have a question that's two parts. Before Chris asks a few questions as well. In fact, we're working on a very unique and interesting NFT project ourselves. So what I wanted to know from you is NFT art galleries. Now these are popping up all over the world. In fact, we have one here in New York City. Do you feel that NFT art galleries are a fad that's going to be very temporary and short-lived, or do you think it will be a trend? And if it becomes a trend, how much of a danger or how competitive would it be against traditional art galleries?
I think that all type of galleries will stay, But as any innovation, the emergence of new NFT marketplaces and NFT projects is just like a boom of the internet in the 90s. You know, there were all types of websites created for all sort of things. And the ones who survived are the ones who proved, you know, that they are meaningfully useful for the people and for the economy. So the same thing will be kind of survival of the fittest and survival of really meaningful and useful things. And some companies will maybe stay here for a year, maybe even make good profits, and then decide to retire from the market because all they wanted was profit. And some companies are here, especially art businesses, for the good. They're here to stay because there are a lot of movements that say NFTs are here to stay. And their primary goal is to build the metaverse, the experience, the new type of experience, because we already have virtual galleries. The concept isn't new, but the opportunity that we have now is to merge different experiences like virtual reality, artificial intelligence, blockchain, and combine all these elements and also add gamification, game element to that. And many of them will go into real world. So I'm sure that a project like, you know, the Metaverse project, the virtual reality can very much impact the real world, because you can create a prototype of economy, you can create a prototype of housing, of clothes, of different objects, and you can test those things in a virtual space and understand if people really like it, if there is really a demand from the market, and then go and produce them in the real world. We're now in conversation with the fashion project, actually with several of them. There are sustainable digital fashion projects. So this is a fantastic use case, because there is fashion industry produces something over 90% of carbon footprint on the planet. The amount of things that being created, especially by mass production brands, cheap clothing, you know, using cheap materials that you have to, you know, buy things, throw it away pretty quickly. All this manufacturing and all this impact that fashion industry has created recently, because of the fast pace of life, and even top fashion designers were complaining about the speed at which the collections have to be created. Because if before you would have like 2 catwalks, two big shows in a year, now it's probably 4 or 5. You have to create, you know, a lot. So it's not beneficial for the creator, because he kind of cannot even have an ease of mind and really, you know, go and think and prioritize and think what is really important, what is really beautiful, what is really meaningful. He has to just create. So it becomes like a, you know, it's highly kind of automated, almost like a robot-made process, right?
Yeah, it's not quality, it's quantity they're going for.
Exactly. And that has a lot of impact on environment, on consumption, and increases our desire to consume more, to change more, to throw things away, not to recycle. So with this in mind, sustainable digital fashion offers you to choose collection on the website, try it on your picture, decide what you want, and then order a production.
Cool.
So now the same can happen with the housing, you know, like you can try in a virtual reality, walk-in tours. If you use like virtual glasses, you can actually kind of teleport yourself in the environment where you could potentially live and understand if you like it or not.
Yes.
And then decide if you want to spend real money in the real world to build it. And the impact on the environment and economy will be way better, because you didn't need to invest a lot of money, and you didn't need to invest a lot of resources to try it on in a digital space.
Yeah, and I just want to hop in there. I was listening to Anthony Pompliano the other day, and you know, he was talking about the metaverses and all of these houses. In the future, he envisions like having a branded house. So like you can go into Martha Stewart's house and like, oh, I want the Martha Stewart brand house, or oh, I want the Rachel Ray brand house. And you'll have that type of house that's set up that they've branded and has their kind of layout and everything. So it's really interesting that you're going to start seeing that in the future. You can test it in the metaverse and then actually build it in the real world. And instead of having just these cookie cutter houses that you see as neighborhoods pop up where they're all the same thing, you can choose what type of house that you want. And hopefully in the future, you'll really have robots just building it, because if there's a certain brand of house, you can just program those robots to build that type of brand of house and then customize it the way that you want. So yeah, it's very interesting. I think that's awesome. Just wanted to put that in there because I heard it recently.
Yeah, that is kind of fascinating. And also there is 3D printing, and there are already some companies that are 3D printing houses. But what I would personally like to see is kind of a return to more of a Renaissance man, to more of a meaning in things and beauty. And when we were creating art, and artists, when they were creating art, they were taking their time. They were using materials that will last for centuries. And that's the reason why we like to go to Rome, and we like to go to cities, to eternal cities,
sure,
and see buildings that have been there for centuries. And with the mass production of the 20th century, with the growth of plastic industry, of manufacturing, pre-construction, it all became cheap, quick, easy, and meaningless. I actually, once we did a research about some areas of Moscow with typological buildings. There are several typologies in Russia of high-rise buildings, so like 5 floors, 9 floors, and they're all standard. And it looks just horrorizing. If you move outside of the center and you live in the new area, or relatively new, like beginning from the 1950s, it's all just dead, sleeping neighborhoods with no cultural centers, with no beautiful buildings or comfortable streets. It's all just this tall, looking the same buildings with the same patterns.
Suburbia.
Right? Okay.
Yeah, like Levittown in Long Island is a classic example of that. Like, as I'm sure you've heard of Levittown, they basically built all of these. It looked exactly the same. It's like classic middle America, right outside of New York City, back in the 50s and 60s. All of these neighborhoods in suburbia were popped up, and all the houses were the same. There was either a ranch or colonial. That was the only choice that you had. Yeah. And everybody had the same size backyard. Everybody had the same size house. And the individuality and the creativeness just kind of got wiped away with that. And I completely see where you're coming from. And it's better when you can design stuff on your own. And I would love to design stuff on your own. But there's also people out there that just aren't that creative and that would be like, oh, I like that. I'll have that instead. You know what I mean? So it's going to allow people to either create for themselves or, hey, let me do that and then put my little spin on it. Like, oh, I like Rachel Ray's house, but I'm going to do that with like orange, and I'm going to have a pool over here instead of a hot tub or whatever it is. And as people merge in all of these, you're going to have so many more individualized houses. You're going to have things that are much more personalized. And I think that that's great. And I think NFTs are going to help usher that in,
Another aspect that I want to address here is that you're talking about people who can actually afford building a house. Mm-hmm. But let's talk about people who cannot afford building a house and people who do not have access to financial system. And there is already a great example of how the metaverse and gaming can help that, Axie Infinity. Mm-hmm. They're helping people in Philippines to make living, to make better wages than they would be making in their own country, or even moving outside, mm-hmm. And helping local economy. And this is another fascinating thing about the metaverse, because the metaverse allows you to create a real economy in the internet. It allows you to make money.
It's the metaverse I think is going to be amazing. And I think when you start having the AR and the metaverses kind of blend into one another, where you're kind of like how we're talking right now. We're in the real world, but we're also doing it virtually. You're going to start seeing AR and metaverses blend into the real world. You know, example, Randy, one of our colleagues, had Google Glass, and he was explaining about how I think it was a little bit ahead of its time because so many people were very cautious with, like, if they saw him wearing his Google Glass, they were like, "Oh, don't record me. I don't want to be recorded." But I think the younger generation's a little more open to being that creative economy where, you know, they understand that it's not really like I'm recording you for malicious purposes. The data that I'm recording is actually going to be used to help benefit everybody. So yeah, I think that, you know, metaverses and AR, and especially as we go interplanetary and start going to Mars and the moon, and we have bases there, it's going to allow us to interact with people there, like we're interacting right now, and they could be on a different planet, literally. And I just think it's just fascinating that, you know, soon we'll be in a Star Wars where there'll be a digital, like, person that shows up, and you can literally have a conversation with that person. It's really not that far off. I do see that being possible within the next few years. I mean, they have it already, but, you know, perfecting it to where, like, you can have a meeting with people in a room all together in a metaverse. It's starting to happen and starting to become more, not like fringe, but more accepted, especially after COVID and things becoming more virtual, and the older generations learning how to use the computer. Because before COVID, it was very hard to get somebody that was over, let's say, 50 years old or so, to not even just use Zoom, but like even check their email. Like they're very hesitant. But now with this whole virtual world and COVID making things remote, with remote work and everything, it's really opened up the older generation's eyes to the efficiency that can come along with a lot of this virtual and digital world.
Well, that's absolutely true about the norm, because even in terms of meetings, like before, you were kind of even forced to travel for work meeting, because people would just reject a virtual meeting because they would, assume that, it's a better quality when you meet physically, and you had to spend so much time in the airplane, in the train, just to get to that one particular meeting. And now you can, like, have 10 meetings in a day without moving out of your own house, and it became so much more efficient.
Yeah.
Right.
No, technology is going to make things a lot more efficient. Sorry, Adam.
No.
Yeah, and just an example, like my uncle was older. He still writes checks. He's still, like, is just very old school because he's very hesitant with doing banking online and everything. And so he went to go get a haircut, and his barber switched over to online reservations only, right? And my uncle was all like, I don't want to do that, da, 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 da. But then when he made the reservation, he downloaded the app, he made his reservation because it's his barber, he wants to go to him. And then when he gets there, he's like, there's no line, nobody's waiting. He gets to sit down, he gets to have a conversation with the barber, and the barber's like, man, my business is so much more efficient now. Now I just book everybody every half an hour. I don't have a line out the door, people waiting. People are much more happy. They can come in, they know when they're going to come in, and it just makes my business run much more efficiently. And my uncle was just like, oh, a light bulb went off his head. He was kind of like, here I am being like the old grumpy man, not even realizing it, like, where technology can really make things much more efficient for businesses, for people. It just makes the automation helps make the world run a lot more smoother. And I think that real life, like, experience that he had with that really changed his opinion when it came to blockchain and cryptocurrencies and banking online. Because when I explained it to him, like, look at all the middlemen that were, like, taken out of that equation. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when I was explaining Bitcoin to him and, like, the whole checking process, because he's like, I still write a check. And it's slowly happening. But I think as time progresses and millennials and Generation Z get older, it will become not only like there, it will become the actual norm, where if you do have an in-person meeting, that's going to be like rare. That's going to be like, oh, we're having the in-person meeting because we're signing a contract or something. It's not like, you know what I mean? Those are going to be the exception rather to the, I actually think the new norm is doing these virtual meetings over, you know, regular meetings. So yeah, I'm 100% in agreement with metaverses and everything that you're working with. It's awesome. It's really interesting.
All right, so I wanted to ask you about Kusama, actually. So doing research and doing my own due diligence, Kusama is known to be an ideal blockchain for startups. And I know when the project is approved, you can put it onto Polkadot. So I would like to know from you, why is Kusama an ideal blockchain for startups? And let's say even if this is an NFT artist. So maybe I'm thinking, could an NFT artist also avoid a lot of the traditional costs of marketing his or her art if something is successfully programmed and created on Kusama?
Tricky question. Well, first, I'll answer why Kusama is good for startups. Basically, the major reason why is because it is based on Substrate. And Substrate is a modular framework. So you can create different modules, just like Lego, and build these pieces, attach these pieces together, and build the kind of blockchain project you want to build. So even as an example, say we take our unique network white label solution, which is all in one. You can have minting, a wallet, a marketplace, and a gallery, or you can have just one of them. So it's not necessary, because if you're an artist, maybe you don't want to sell your artwork. You want to just show it, and you want to show it for a paid ticket. So you just set up a gallery and a wallet to accept like payments for accessing your exhibition.
Right.
And that same applies for many elements you can build with Substrate. And another advantage is that Kusama is cheaper than Polkadot. It is a little bit less secure because it relies on validator network, and just the stake, being as validator, the stake in Kusama costs less than the stake in Polkadot. That's the reason why Polkadot is more secure. And Polkadot is kind of enterprise level blockchain. So if you're a big company, you'd say you're like a giant gaming company that really is working, you know, with millions of users, and you really want to make sure that your transactions are stable, everything is super secure, then you would want to build on Polkadot. But many projects that just come like with, let's say, gallery, you don't need that level of enterprise security. So Kusama would be enough for you to run your small business. So I would say like Kusama is a small business environment. And also if you want to experiment, especially in the gaming environment, like what Canary Network is doing with NFT relationships, they created palettes that allow you to send emojis to different NFTs and like send love, build like child-parent relations, create like communities, and engage in gaming. And in terms of saving and marketing costs, this is really, really tricky question, because really and truly the artists that are successful at the moment are the artists who have a lot of following already, and who have support from their own social media following and their communities. So they are quite established in the sense that they have exposure to collectors, they have exposure to the press, etc. But what blockchain does allow you to do, it does allow you to build your own community through the token. So if you launch your internal token on your marketplace, and you create an economy where your users, when they buy one piece of art, then they get a bonus when buying the second piece of art, and they become a part of your ecosystem, and they become your ambassadors, and you create like this whole ecosystem around your art, and you can connect with other artists. And because such tool as Discord is very new to the art community, they actually benefit a lot from it, because there is a lot of like there's a lot of new people joining who are not technical, just because they're curious to know how to use this new environment, and they want to connect with new people. And now like Discord is the first channel where you find a perfect mergence of tech people and creative people. And actually they start a conversation there, and then they come up with new startups and new ideas of things of what they want to do. Because we have not seen really much happening in terms of creativity on the blockchain yet, because it's all been like create a file, mint a file, sell a file, end of story, right? So I'm very much looking forward to the next sort of like 6 months to a year to see what really great artists will come up with, because it will become easier for them to access the space, because even companies like Unique Network are working on simplification of UX and UI design, hiding the blockchain solution under the hood. So everything you need to do now is you need to hire a good UX and UI developer, like a website developer. So pretty much like building a website based on WordPress. And you need to take care of like your user experience and what you as an artist want your buyers and collectors to go through it as a user journey on your website. And then the blockchain companies just kind of attach the blockchain solution, the back end to front end, and like you don't have to deal with it as an artist. And then soon we'll see fiat on RAM payments, so it will be possible to purchase NFT directly with a credit card, and that will completely revolutionize everything. Because you know, as a normal human being, as your brother, sister, your mother who wants to buy a painting because they're decorating the house, you know, they don't want to go to an exchange, buy cryptocurrency, bring it to the platform, then maybe swap it because you need to buy, say, for example, Bitcoin, bring it to the platform, buy your native token, then buy art, then calculate how much would it cost in dollars. So that's a nightmare for a normal human being. And that's why companies are working on solutions that are bringing Web2 experience into Web3. Because even though blockchain is super revolutionary, we shouldn't forget that already in an existing internet environment, we have things that are working, that are easy, and that everybody likes. So there is no reason why we shouldn't use those for the Web3.
Excellent. Now, I have two final questions, and then I'm going to give the floor to Chris. So what I would like to know is, are there any exciting upcoming projects you'd like to discuss? And then finally, what is your favorite type of art? So this could be artist, this could be era, style. I would like to know, and I think the audience would like to know too, what your favorite kind of art is.
So the exciting project I'm working on sort of tech side is Digital Art for Climate initiative. We're doing it with United Nations Habitat, an association for advancement in international innovation, and fantastic person, Miroslav Posner, who discovered that NFT is the tool to help climate action. So we're building a marketplace for climate action, Digital Art for Climate, and launching a hybrid event in Milan on September 30, with a physical roundtable and exhibition and a virtual exhibition and some guests joining virtually. And on October 30, there will be a big event in Glasgow, COP26, dedicated to climate action. So we are looking to have a pavilion there. So if anybody watching and wants to join Digital Art for Climate, please reach out to me, especially artists. So now they are coming. Sorry, Adam.
I'll post it on my Twitter tonight, and I'll suggest for them to reach out to you.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. So the competition is live. It's on the website. Terms and conditions are on the website. And I'll be happy to talk to all the artists who want to take part in the climate action initiative. For the personal projects, I'm actually doing NFT drop with Open Earth Foundation, which is again kind of climate charity related initiative. On 31st of August, I wrote an article about metaverse and the new economy and how the metaverse can help us test new economic models, pretty much what we just discussed. So yeah, stay tuned to my social media. We'll be releasing, this is in partnership with Exquisite Workers. They're doing an artwork based on my article. So there will be a text and an artwork, which I have not seen yet. The artist is working right now. So I'm very, very excited because I'm very curious to see what he will come up with. And in terms of art, I love architecture, and my favorite architect is Zaha Hadid. And she always inspired me, like, because her works in architecture are more art, and they take roots in Russian avant-garde. So I would say I really love Russian avant-garde movement. Kandinsky, Malevich, and everybody who followed. And she's always been an inspiration for me, because also being a woman who revolutionized architecture and who became the first woman to win prizes and to become recognized as the first sort of strong female architect. And I had the pleasure to meet her, an honor to meet her in Milan. And yeah, she basically really had a lot of influence on my choices in life and on my perception of leadership and on role of women in general in space and business and creative space. Because if you look at statistics, there are not so many women who are making it to the top, who are making it to the top in the arts and having auctions and selling artworks at the price that usually male artists sell. So I really feel like it's my mission to show that things can be changed, and they can be changed by the means of technology as well, because it is more, tech sector is actually much more inclusive. And blockchain space, I feel like it's really, really female friendly. And I'm looking to kind of enforce it more, and I'm supporting a lot of women in blockchain organizations. And I hope that there will be more also female NFT artist organizations in the near future.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Chris?
No, yeah, I mean, I don't really have too many questions. You covered a lot. I was just thinking maybe, Adam, you want to kind of fill her in on the NFT project that we're working on?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have too much. Everything that you said has been very interesting. I agree 100% with the guest experience or the customer experience when it comes to minting. Like, they're not going to be able to figure out crypto wallets and they just want a seamless Web 2 experience where they put down their credit card. Okay, I've minted something now. Like, all of that blockchain stuff is under the hood back end where they don't have to worry about that. That's kind of something what me and Adam are developing as well. So maybe, Adam, you want to kind of explain what we're kind of doing with the NFT space? Kind of it's art, but not art completely. So
right.
Yeah.
So one of the projects we are doing is that we're going to be creating an NFT platform where users can post culinary content and sell those as NFTs. One of the issues that we wanted to address is the fact that small business restaurants have been almost wiped out up here. You go to anywhere in the Northeast, New York City, in the boroughs, northern New Jersey, all you're seeing is Starbucks and Panera Breads everywhere. You're seeing mass corporatization of food. And, you know, food, having dinner, having lunch, having any meal is always a very important experience. And many of those experiences, they're shared with family, and they're celebrated as special events in life, whether it's anniversaries, weddings, graduations, things like that. So we wanted to preserve culinary enthusiasm and ideas through NFTs. So if you are a user, you can create an NFT token essentially out of a personal recipe. This could be a family recipe. This could be a self-taught recipe. This could be a recipe you may have learned, you know, within your professional experience in the hospitality industry. You could post that as video content, picture content, sell that as an NFT. And for each, I guess you could say, customer or user that purchases that specific NFT, you in turn receive residual income royalties from that. That is much of it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Well, this is fantastic, actually, because you know what? I have a personal story where I can really relate to your project, because my granddad had a farm and he was very much into cooking, and he had like, you know, all the agriculture and all the fresh products, you know, right there. So my grandmother was really cooking a lot and a lot of delicious things. And my father comes from a little republic of Gagauzia that has its own like culture that is very similar to Turkish. And we have.
I'm sorry. Where exactly is that in Russia? Just so I can have a better idea.
It is not in Russia. It is the border of Moldova and Ukraine.
Oh, okay.
So it is like an old settlement. After the Turkish war, some people just settled in that area, and they are considered to be Turkish.
Interesting.
So we have like long traditions of particular cuisine that's very similar to modern Turkish cuisine. And like the last time we went to visit my grandparents before they passed away, my dad was sitting on at the table and telling me, you have to write down this recipe because this is maybe the last time you're trying this food and you need to learn how to make it because this may disappear. And you know, it is so true because like my life in London showed me how people are just, you know, in the fast-paced environment, how they just don't pay any attention to what they eat. It's just fast, fast, fast. It's all like prefabricated supermarket stuff. And now that I'm here in Spain, in Valencia, I spend a lot of time with my other part of the family, and they're cooking paella. And you know, my brother-in-law, he's really into cooking, so it's really an experience because it's about gathering, it's about sharing. It's about, you know, it's much more than food. And in these recipes, it brings you memories, it gives meaning to life. And I feel like especially in Mediterranean, people pay so much more attention to what they eat and how they eat. So it's more, and like, you know, it's all about that particular oil from that particular place and that particular tree.
Yep. It's all like the heritage and the concept behind it is really to put those recipes and those family traditions onto the blockchain so they're not lost. And so they can be shared with others as well. Because where did the original chicken Parmesan come from? Like so many people will question that and others will like say, oh, it started here, and one family will claim the thing. But if you have it on a blockchain moving forward, all of these new dishes that will be created with the merger of ethnicities and everything, now you can point to the blockchain as, hey, I was the original creator of that. So like, let's say a dish becomes very popular in the future. If you put that as an NFT, let's say like 10 years earlier, you have the rights to that recipe. And not only recipes, but also experiences, tickets, things all within the hospitality industry. So imagine you're a creative, whether you're a chef or a bartender, you know, now you can create an experience virtually and sell tickets. So like, let's say you have an NFT and it's a cocktail recipe and you're a bartender. Not only can you sell that recipe to, let's say you may mint 10 of them, right? With that NFT, you have the special privilege to join a live stream with me where I teach you how to make the recipe. Or if it's local, you can come into my bar and I can teach you how to make it. Like I see it being more virtual, but it could also be for like in New York City for a chef that wants to do a food tasting. Hey, here's 10 tickets, you buy this recipe, but it also gets you a food tasting at, you know, in Brooklyn at 10 o'clock on Friday, if you want. So it's also selling experiences along with the art, because culinary art really isn't just something that you take in visually or you hear, you actually taste it and it's gone. It's eventually the art is gone at the end of it, but you have the pictures and you have the video to remember it. Just like the Banksy art that got shredded once the guy bought it. Like he still owns the shreddings of it, but like the video of it and the experience of all that was the art behind it. You know what I mean? So capturing these experiences at NFTs, allowing, you know, hospitality creatives to mint their skills, whether that's cooking or mixologist as a bartender or anything in the experience that you can provide to somebody can be sold as an NFT, kind of like a ticket. Or have a special privilege go along with the recipe. Like, let's say I put chocolate pancake recipe out and I own a diner. If somebody buys that recipe, that NFT could entitle them to a free meal once a month at my diner, or a free, like, you know, 10% off every time you come in. You can put so many different things and experiences wrapped into that NFT, like you were explaining earlier, with music and everything. But now we're just bringing it more to the hospitality realm where you have services included and experiences that go along with it. Because culinary and hospitality and lodging, it's all about the experience that you're having. And to be able to NFT that, I think would be, something that's not being done right now. It's being done to an extent with sports and other things, but in terms of culinary and hospitality and culinary art field, it's not really being done yet. So we're developing a marketplace that will allow people to mint their videos, their pictures of their food, the recipe of their food, and they can attach along tickets or special privileges with that NFT, to be able to, do these virtual cooking show, or come in and make a cocktail on Friday night at Club XYZ, or there's so many options that come along with NFTs besides just being art, as we all say. It can be a full experience. Like an NFT can just be a ticket to a basketball game if you want it to be. So there's so many possibilities. Art is one of the main ones where it clicks in their head. Oh, art, that's unique. You can't duplicate that. But there's so many more, like you said, with real estate and culinary art and experiences now. I think that you can NFT experiences with certain creatives. Like if a creative wants to do that, it's possible. There's so many options, and I'm really excited to see, once we do have the marketplace and open, and we figure out how we can onboard people easily with just using a credit card. I'm really excited to see what people come up with in terms of these culinary experiences and hospitality experiences, because the possibilities are endless if you think about it.
Well, this is, again, we're going back to the question. So what is art? There is art of politics, there is art of speaking, there is art of living. So you're creating the art of living.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah. Living art.
Yeah. And on a final note, Irina, it was an absolute pleasure having you on our show today. We covered so much ground in NFTs and in NFT art and in NFT food as far as our upcoming project. Yeah. Give us a shout when you get to New York in November, and Chris and I would love to collaborate with you on some project in the future. And keep us posted with what you're doing at the Unique Network.
Yes.
Thank you for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure and a great conversation, and all the success with the Art of Living Pina Pay Marketplace.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I like the art of living. That is perfectly exactly what we're doing,
Absolutely. And have an awesome weekend, Irina, and take care.
You have a great day.
Thank
you.
Bye. Thank you, everyone. Bye.